Okay, hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You can see my screen and everything? Yeah? Can you see my screen? Sorry, I can't really hear you. You're like cutting off a little bit. I heard that.
Better now?
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Do you have anything like specific you want to go over or anything like in particular you want to talk about or
Not necessarily. I just kind of need like tips in the matchup and stuff.
okay. Well, I probably can't give you like really specific tips because I don't know Marth player. You know, I don't know that much about Falcon versus Peach. But yeah. If you just want to go over and I could just talk about whatever I see. I'm probably going to start off just watching a little bit, so because I don't really know what you play like yet, and I don't really want to like spend too much time like talking about like random stuff that isn't going to be like the most important thing to improve first. So let's is there a way for me to is this why is it not playing here? What the hell? Alright, whatever. We can do this. Okay. Options. Can I do audio settings? Yeah, let me turn this audio way down. Okay, good. Oh, my computer's chugging. Why is my computer chugging here? Okay, hold on. Why is my computer struggling? I do this all the time. unfortunate. Mhm. Mm. Okay. Oh. Oh well. Okay. So do you have anything in particular that you? I know you said that like you're just like looking for general tips, but is there anything in particular that you like saw in the game that you want to talk about, or not really?
Was kind of like missing my. I could have got. It's like a little more exterior
Sorry, you cut off a little bit. You were missing what?
punishes.
Okay.
Times I'd hit like up airs, but I wouldn't be able to finish.
Okay, sure. So like, what specific punishes?
I think I saw once I stomped him, and I just reason hit knee, and I ended up just up airing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay. So let's see if we can take it from the top. Let's see. Yeah, so that's a text skill error, probably, right? Like, right here, where you accidentally shielded. I guess you were trying to L cancel, and then you just left the trigger held down too long, so you ended up shielding, and then you rolled back, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's like a pretty big deal, right? Because you have to be able to. I mean, it's like, well, near grab is really good, and it's important against everybody. But it's important to be able to like execute all of your basic tech skill, like like L canceling and then moving immediately out of it is obviously pretty important, and it's just like it'll help a lot if you're able to do like make your character do exactly what you want your character to do, right?
Yeah. Also,
You missed what?
the bear.
Uh huh.
After I hit him with the nair, that was definitely a misinput.
Okay, I see. Well, actually, this bear would have worked, but if you could see what actually happened here, so you hit this snare, and then you were actually standing still for a little bit. Let me. Is there a way for me to? There's no way for me to rewind. So you're gonna hit him with the snare, and then you land, and then you can see you're standing still here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You stood still for 4 frames before you started dashing. So you see how like if you had started naring, because like this bear was pretty close to hitting, right?
Yeah.
It's probably at a few frames for this, but you can imagine like how actually this bear would have completely hit the peach if you had moved quickly out of your nair. So nair also, of course, yeah. Again, like Texular was like, oh, I meant to nair and I accidentally bared. But it's also important to note, there's like another reason why this didn't connect, and it's not just as like, oh, like I did the wrong move. It is also like you were a little bit slow. So if you're like able to execute stuff like that, like being able to move quickly out of your L cancels, then sometimes you can get away with doing something a little silly, or something on accident because like you could just get in there quickly enough, especially if you're going to play Falcon because Falcon's so fast. That's a good crouch cancel. That's a good crouch cancel, but I would say like so you like crouch cancel jabbed him, but you probably could have just crouch cancel grabbed him straight up, right? So if you just crouch cancel grab here, then he ends up avoiding it because you jabbed him. I don't think it was like a terrible idea, but if you're going to crouch cancel him at this low percent, then you should know like what your main options out of this crouch cancel are. Yeah, see again after the snare, you stood still again. Did you see that? So watch it again. And this is like a common thing. But see, this is your nair just finished, and then you were standing still for a little bit, and then you like did a little dash back instead of like pressuring his position, stuff like that. That was nice.
There.
Yeah. Okay. I see. Yeah, that's probably an E. I didn't hate the up air. Maybe you would probably have to do the up air like a little bit differently, right? In order to be combo out of it. But yeah, I see what you mean. There was another one I saw here. Something's just silly. Nice. And you saw actually on that one. Look how quickly you moved out of the snare. This is what actually got you to hit the snare, right? Look.
Yeah.
Look. One, and then immediately you see there's no frames where you're just standing up straight, and then boom, knee. That's the exactly the kind of thing you're looking for. Probably don't tech roll in there because in that situation. So let's look at the situation. I have to back up another 5 seconds. No. So right here, this is when you just hit the ground. You can see the magnifying glass here that you're in your tech animation. And Peach is really slow, right? So can you see how if you tech away, or even if you tech in place, there's like a 0% chance of Peach hitting you directly for it?
Yeah.
So right there, if you know about where you are, and you know where Peach is, then, I mean, there's no real reason to tech in, right? Unless if it's just like, oh, I panicked. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I take a lot of time to just like autopilot whenever I tech, and I don't really think about whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. So I'm not particularly like suggesting that you think about what you're doing, and this is like kind of something I tell people a lot. And the first time they hear it, they are kind of surprised. But I don't think that players should be like thinking whenever they play, because melee is like such a fast game, where I mean, I think the biggest proof is like whenever I play, a lot of times I'll be playing, I'll be like, man, I'm moving pretty fast. And I'll like watch a recording of myself play, I'll be like, damn, I'm super slow. So it's just, but it like all feels so fast in the moment. So like, I think that's like a perfect example of why it's a totally bad idea to like try to do conscious thought while you're playing, because it's just like the game moves too quickly for you to think consciously about it. But what you can do is you can just like train yourself to recognize this position and be like, okay, from here, if Peach is so far away, just understanding Peach's speed and the size of the stage, if I tech in place, there's no way she can get me.
Make it like habit.
Yeah, kind of like a habit to like recognize. How would I say, how would I best explain this? Let's go back to your nair. Let's go back to your nair knee. Okay, so you nair and then you immediately knee. How did you know to knee?
Probably because I've like practiced against a lot of floaties, and I kind of just like recognize consciously that like this is a place where I can knee.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't really say it's like a habit, because a habit would be like, oh, like a habit kind of has this connotation to it where it's like, oh, like I would go for the knee no matter what. But you clearly knew that like this was the knee that was going to connect. There's no way you're going to like react and think about it, right?
Yeah.
So it's similar with this tech roll situation where you get hit. This is just kind of something that you will be able to recognize over time. Where like, where it's just like, man, there's no way she can get me, and like taking place is really safe here. And you aren't going to probably end up thinking about it in like such literal step by step processes, but your brain will be able to like jump through those thought processes really quickly, and then you would know it's taking place. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. That's a nice slide off. Right there, this back air looked kind of awkward because, well, basically the way you reacted after back airing, it seemed like you thought that this back air was going to like put him further out, right?
Yeah.
But actually went nowhere. Why? Because, well, he was at 0%, and you were like oh shit, and you tried to back air again. But I think if you were like paying more attention to, or you were more aware of like what happens when you back air Peach at 0, then you would be ready to play the situation. Like you would have tried to shield him trying to nair you to counter hit, or you would have like gone for a grab after the back air because you know that he's going to go nowhere, so on and so forth. Missed the reaction there. Yeah, this is also something that happens a lot where you're kind of like committing to picking an option pretty early. So let's see. Actually, this back here is a good example. Um, okay, so like right here, back air, and then you back air it again. And then probably as soon as you realize this back air wasn't hitting, you're like, ah, shit. So then you ran away here, and even though he like pressed, I don't know if this is like a flub or if it was just like him pressing counter or whatever. Uh, you like kind of ran away, and then like instead of looking at what was actually happening on the screen, you were just like running away and like trying to space a back air on him dashing in. But he was doing like he was pulling out Toad, right? So there's no way he could have come into this.
Cypher uses Hunter as Peach more than like other Peaches do, like he should. So that was probably actually on purpose.
Okay, sure. So I mean, it just goes to show that like it's something that you should be able to like react to, right? Hey, it's like not that easy, right? I mean, I don't think anything in Melee is that easy to react to, just because again of how fast the game is. But you can see how like that takes a while, and it's like an opening for you, right? And then I think we're about to come up to another one. This is something especially is like, well, Cypher in particular, but also all Peach players is just like being ready to punish down smash, right? Peach players love down smash, and we're about to see it here, where the down smash whiffs, and so after this back air, if you, so after you do your move, you can like look at him. Drug Fox calls this a reaction point, which is like, oh, you're like committing to, you're doing a thing right now, right? So you can't, while you're doing your thing, in this case you're back airing, you can't possibly be doing like any other thing. So there's no real particular reason for you to be looking at what your character is doing. It would be better for you to look at what your opponent is doing and where they are. So in this case, you can see as the back air, as your back air ends, Cypher is in the middle of a down smash, but you kind of just like dashed away instead. And then by the time, and that was because you weren't really what we call looking at the screen. That's fun. That's another tech skill flub, right? Probably.
What was it?
Let's see. Right here, you're about to roll. Not here. Yeah, right here. This roll.
That was probably text.
Okay. Yeah, this was a big one. This was a big one. This was actually whenever you were talking about your punishes, this is the one I actually thought of. Where I was like, oh, yeah, this is up air knee, right? This is like perfect because he's like so far, he DI'd so far in, like you could definitely need that. But I guess you like lack the confidence to go for it, or you messed up your tech skill and then you couldn't go for it anymore. Speaking of like, why do you think you missed it? Like, was it like the you didn't know you could, or you recognized it too late, or you just messed up your tech skill, or something else?
Knee opening.
This up air knee right here.
I think that was probably like a lack of confidence in my like decision making.
Uh huh.
I know that like if I missed the knee, I'd be like off stage in like a great position because I'm not the best at edge guarding Pete.
Uh huh.
I think that was just like me trying to pick a safer option. That option just like scarred her or something like
Okay. Well, something to say. Well, two things kind of about that, right? Well, the first thing is like, you could say that. Well, the first thing is like probably the first like instinctual thing everyone will tell you is like, in friendlies, you should probably just go for it, right? Because
that.
it doesn't really matter. It's just like a learning experience. It's not that serious. But the other thing I would say is that in this case, retreating actually proves. Whoa, what was that?
I actually moved my mic a little bit.
Okay. So in this case, this going for the knee was actually the safe option, and I'll explain why. Um, you can see how you end up retreating after this sequence, and so the result is he gets back to stage, and then right here, right here, he's going to hit you. Okay, I thought he was going to hit you earlier. Whatever. Uh,
I think
he actually hits you. But if you had kneed him, he would be dead, and you would not have gotten hit. You would have been very safe. So it's like the guaranteed. If your option is guaranteed to kill them, no matter like how like risky it may look to someone who like doesn't know that it's guaranteed. If it's guaranteed and you hit it, then and it kills them, then it's just the safest thing that you can do because there's nothing they can do to hurt you while they're dead. So yeah, I would definitely advise that you just like try to like cultivate like especially in friendlies, just be willing to like go for it, and then like if you miss something like this, like that's okay. It's totally fine. You just need to like realize it's like oh like if I'm missing this particular up air knee a lot, it must mean that I need to practice it more. And it's not a big deal to miss. It's just like kind of telling you it's like oh this is what you need to work on. But especially like in friendlies, like okay if it was like tournament, it's like game 3 and it's like oh god I don't want to lose. Then I would not be terribly upset if you sold out here and then did another up air. Up air is probably like doing the third up air here is probably like the most conservative thing you could do. But I would say just like especially on this DI, the knee is going to happen. So just go for the knee because it is actually the best option because it kills them.
I meant for that stomp right here to
Mm-hmm.
like not hit the platform.
Oh, so you wanted to like stomp off and hit him, like
Yes.
right here. Okay, I see.
went for it again and it didn't work.
Yeah, yeah. So this is also something that happens all the time to everybody, right? Where someone will be like, you actually see this with Space Animal players all the time. They'll be like, "Man, I miss my like multi shine. I'm going to sit here and try to do it again." And you just hit
Yeah.
them, right? Uh, People do this all the time. Where it's like, "No, I messed up this tech. I'm going to do it again," and then like get it right, or
Yeah, people
like
do that.
yeah, but that's like kind of that's an example of kind of like autopiloting into a bad decision, right? Because your opportunity with stomp was gone, but you were so focused on like, no, 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 I got to do the stomp that you weren't really paying attention to what was happening.
I see that the most with me is that a lot of times I'll like accidentally tournament winner.
Hmm.
I'll be like, no, and
Um,
I'll go back on ledge and then
in
I'll try
ledge
to get back on
dash,
the
yeah,
dash.
yeah. I see that a lot as well. And that one, like, if you get away with the turn winner, a lot of times you can get back to the ledge and then try ledge dash again, and it kind of turns out okay. But that doesn't always, and like because ledge dash is really good, sometimes the risk reward does favor that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's like like a great idea in general, right? Nice, that was really good. Yeah, so you do this tech in a lot, right? So look here, and he's already floating back by the time you start tech rolling in. So this is probably a habit you want to look out for. Because you did say that you autopilot a lot of your defensive options in tech rolls, and he's probably relying on you just being lazy and tech rolling in every time, which is a very common habit and therefore a very common thing to read. That was a crouch cancel grab, by the way.
Was it?
I don't know how much you use this crouch cancel, but like right here, where he weak dash attacks you, this is a grab 7 days of the week. But
Yeah.
you even had time, right? You like shielded and then you jumped and then you nared. But if you grabbed him, you would have just gotten him. That was an up air rather than an air. It's not that serious though. So lucky. What happens? So like probably whenever Peach is up here on the platforms like this, and you were doing this earlier, but like how do you decide whether you want to up air or you want to neutral air?
Um, it might be like based on the percent, but I'm not.
Okay, sure. Well, a lot of it has to do with like positioning too, right? Like neutral air would cover more like right here, right?
Yeah.
But up air would cover like a lot of over here. So if you try to like float off the platform or run off the platform to come at you, you could kind of put an up air here. And well, how much melee would you say you watch? Like VOD, how much melee would you say you watch? Like VODs, tournaments, so on and so forth.
Watch a. Try to watch at least like at least like 1 or 2 sets a day, and it's do that.
Okay. Do you have anybody in particular that you watch for this matchup?
Um, necessarily. Um, and no, not really.
Okay. When you watch like the sets, how do you watch them? Like walk me through what you usually do whenever you watch a set.
So like, I had this big Google Drive that's full of like Falcon matchup tips that I'm making. So
That's
I'll
so
pull that up, and I'll just like take notes there about like neutral and stuff, and I'll have like I was thinking about how KJH takes notes where he'll like a GIF from a VOD,
good.
and when he's trying to take notes on, he'll put it in there.
Hmm.
I'll do that a lot, and I'll take a GIF of like continuing up air and like like up air continuously on Pete, like how he approaches neutral or like back to get back on ledge and stuff.
Hmm.
So like that sort of
Okay. So whenever you, so I guess I guess what's kind of confusing me is you said you don't really have anybody like you watch for this matchup. Uh, I guess like two questions, and it's like why did you like pick this game in particular? Was there a real reason, or you just pick one? It's totally fine if you just like pick it just because. But I was curious if there was like another reason because like I feel like if you picked it for a reason like I want to know more about Falcon Peach, then going to study VODs of Falcon versus Peach would be a good thing to do, right?
Yeah, I feel like I picked this game because yesterday we were like, let's run a best of five.
Uh huh.
I said let's run a best of five because how I was gonna analyze my gameplay. I need to have like a and good, and I was playing really good that day.
Uh huh.
Like, okay, the best of five, and I feel like this game was like maybe the closest, but like I feel like both maybe just I was playing my best ability this day. So I feel like it's like more representative of like how I play, and also it shows like I need to do more because I'm bad. They don't usually do that or bad. It's kind of be useless to tell me like obvious things that I'm just playing. But
Okay, sure. Well, one thing I definitely want to say about like the idea of like playing well or playing bad is just like, well, first off, none of us is like as good as we think we are, right? Like all
yeah,
the time, I'll be like, this used to happen a lot when I was playing the locals, and Taylor tried to explain it to me. It was like, yeah, you have this thing where you're just like, oh, I just like played I didn't play that well, and you played better than me, and I just need to play better next time. And it's like not really a John, but it's also just like kind of an unhelpful way to look at it because it's just like the fact is like there are just going to be days where you don't play well, you know?
yeah,
You can never play like you everyone is always like 9 times better at least in friendlies than they are in tournament, and you always hear people say this is like, bro, why can't I do this in tournament? It's like, dude, I'm so sick in friendlies, but I choke so much in tournament. You probably hear that from like literally every Smash player you've ever talked to ever. But like basically you can you can either just be kind of like upset, I guess. Not really like upset, like, oh, I'm mad, grr, but just like you could just be like salty about it afterwards, be like, oh, why did I play so bad? Or you can realize that it's just like sometimes it's just like everyone plays worse in tournament, and what you need to do is you need to make your bad or your average better than the other person's bad or average, and then
yeah,
that's how you win because it's tournament, we're all playing bad. The question is who's going to play better, and at the end of the day it doesn't matter if I won because you played bad or not. The only thing that matters is just like I played how I played, and then I was able to beat you, even if it was because you were playing bad.
yeah,
So I guess all of this is like coming down to say where it's just like, and don't get me wrong, I don't think it's wrong to pick a game because you feel like you played well for it. You played particularly well in a game or a set. In fact, I do think it's very useful to look particularly at those games where you're playing you're playing particularly well, in order to say is like, okay, here's what happens whenever I'm playing well, and what can I do even better. But I'm saying that it's also very useful to look at sets where you're playing average or sets at where you're playing badly, because the ones where usually where it's like, oh, I played bad and I messed up this tech skill, that probably means that you need to do your tech skill more,
yeah,
that practice that. But this is something that Magi and I talk about a lot, where it's kind of like, let's say I have a tech that I can do like 90% of the time whenever I'm playing average. Is that a good thing?
I'd say yeah.
Right, it seems like it would be a good thing, but I actually think that it's actually not a very good thing. I think if you're playing average, then especially for a lot of tech, to be confident enough to go for it in tournament, I need to be able to do it when I'm playing average probably 120% of the time. And I know that's not like a real percentage that you can get, but I need to be like so confident in it that even if I were to play bad, I could still do this tech like 85-90% of the time. Because again, people play bad all the time. And if I suddenly can't do this thing, if I'm going to like suddenly play bad, which is like, I mean, it is in your control, but to some degrees, just like there are days where you aren't feeling it and you play worse than other days. And I'm sure you've experienced this. Sometimes this just happens and you still need to be able to do that tech. So it's important to have your character control down to a point where it's not just like, oh, I can do this if I'm not playing poorly. It should be, I can do this even if I'm playing poorly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that should be like a particular thing to focus on, especially whenever you're starting off learning the game, because being able to control your character exactly as you want to, especially early on, will make it so that you'll be able to learn new stuff and try new stuff out much more quickly.
Yeah.
Oops. Nice. Could have been a tech chase. Oh god, it's chugging. Yeah, I like that you recovered that way. Yeah, so this is another spot, right? So what happened here was actually you were like way over here, and I think this makes complete sense for you to be dash dancing right here because basically you're playing around dash attack, right? So he could dash attack you, and then you space him back air, and you're running here. You're still playing around dash attack, and then he down smashes, but you see how you just like still go right after that. His down smash is already over by the time you start dashing in, and by the time you dash in with your dash attack, he's able to dash back and punish you. So you're kind of just like already decided ahead of time that you're going to dash back one more time, when really, uh, just like based off of looking at him, it didn't have to turn out that way, right?
Yeah.
This is just like this is like one of those things that you actually see this kind of thing all the time. Like especially like characters that are dash dance heavy, like Falcon and Marth, and in some matchups Fox, where they'll like Falco would do a down air at them, and they'll dash back, and then they'll try to dash back in and grab, and the Falco will shine them. They'll be like, "Oh my god, what happened? Shine is so broken." But actually, it's not really about that. It's more like, oops, someone's calling me. Give me a sec. Okay, I have to decline that call real quick. What was I saying? Yeah, so it's not so much as like shine is broken. It's just like you dash back too far. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so like with that in mind, keep that in mind. Let's play this interaction back again. So he does this, and then what if instead of being all the way over here whenever you down smashed, what if you were like right here? Right? Because there's no need really for you to be all the way back here when he was like crouching and he was down smashing. You could have been right here, and then if you were right here, you would have hit him for sure, right?
Yeah. I think I'm playing a little bit too scared, definitely.
Yeah. So it definitely feels like very safe to be all the way back here, but at the same time, it's you're kind of also letting him do whatever he wants for free, and it actually results in you getting baited in and trying to punish something that you actually can't punish.
Yeah.
I don't know about any up throw stuff on Peach, but I know you can. I'm not sure, but I know you can down throw knee, so you should
I
probably down throw knee.
out of wait, what percent was that at the up throw?
80 to 90. Let's
Because
play it back. Yeah, okay, 90. That was the other one.
throw knee starts working at around 90. I like up throw knee, but I feel like what it was just I just didn't like use my jump better, you know? Like I didn't like immediately double jump instead of like in the max like double jump, which if I did that, I'm pretty sure I would have hit the knee.
Right here. Yeah, if you didn't instant double jump, yeah, I can see that.
Big thing whenever I play Fox first puff is that a lot of times I'll just like autopilot instant double jump whenever I realize that's not what I should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Nice tech. Nice roll. Could have kept your shield up though. So like so like this is nice, and then instead of fighting into his pressure where you get stuffed, you roll. That's really good. But you could have just kept your trigger held down, and I'm pretty sure you could have shielded the stash attack. And it's because he's unlikely to grab there, basically. And if he grabs there, it's just like, all right, you got me, basically. It's important to accept. It's like sometimes you just get like, sometimes they just win 50-50, and it's like you just have to be willing to accept that. All right, so you dash back into it. So based off of like what I've seen from this game, seems that you have some pretty good ideas, but I would say for this matchup, you should study some bots and you should definitely practice your character control. So this is something that I say to newer players all the time. The most important thing is Melee is an execution-based game first, and a decision-based game second. So you can be really good at making decisions, and it obviously will help you. But the most important thing in Melee is being able to like push the buttons and push them well. Sometimes people take this like as a bad thing, like oh, like this person just gets carried by their tech skill, but they're actually really stupid. But I don't really think it's like that. Like for example, like, and I don't know if like you feel like, because like some people are all about, it's like, oh, like I outthought my opponent, so I should win. Like I have like I deserve to win because I'm getting the outplay or whatever. But basically, it's perfectly okay that there are some games that are better, that are execution based. Like for example, if there were no execution in a lot of physical sports, they would be really stupid games. Like, can you imagine golf if they were like, if there were like no execution involved? You're just like, oh, I tell the ball where to go and it goes there. I mean, golf is already boring, to be honest. To me, I don't know if you're a golf fan. Golf fans might be mad at me for saying that. But I feel like most people aren't golf fans because golf is like pretty boring to watch. But I think it's like the perfect example for this. Like golf would just be the stupidest game ever if you're just like, oh, I pick where the ball goes. So like having the execution is being important is okay. And right here, in Melee, the execution is important, and so like it's important for you to practice like your basic tech skills. So like uh like we talked earlier about moving out of your aerial as quickly as possible. That's going to be really big. Not missing your inputs. I saw some accidental forward smashes. There's the accidental back air at the beginning whenever you meant to neutral air, right? Stuff like that. So I'd say that's going to be the most important things looking going forward. For your tech rolls, don't always tech roll in. You should mix it up. Tech roll in is good, but you should not do it every time, or they just read it every time, right? And I would say, yeah, I mean that's all I'm going to leave off with for now. Obviously, there could be more to look at, but I think the most important things are to like watch melee, and play it and practice your execution, which is like a really lame thing that people don't want to hear. A lot of people just like hate practicing execution, but I don't know. I kind of like it.
I solo practice sometimes, but like
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. So what's your solo practice like?
um so a lot of the times what I'll do is I will go into 28.6 training mode, and then I'll do the thing where you do the you can make like a action a color, you know, like like
Yeah, yeah,
make a
yeah.
character color, and I'll do player 2 color red, and then I'll make it for weight. I
Mm-hmm.
practice just like tech chasing spacies for like half an hour, I'd say. I mix in like reads where I'll try to like they're DIing in, I'll try to stomp in place to like react to their tech in place, and I'll also try to react off that if they don't tech in place.
Uh huh.
And then I go to go punch, and I do exercise for like I don't know, to like do it so it's like infinite eggs or whatever, and like no
Yeah.
damage threshold. And I'll
Yeah,
go
yeah,
for
yeah.
like how long I wanna do a lot of I'll do ledge dash practice. I'll do like hack dashes, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I do ledge teching a lot. I do ledge tech practice a lot, where like I'm better at it than like people my skill, but like really.
Sure.
Then I'll do I'll still
And do you just do stuff until like you feel like you've done enough, or do you have like a specific, I guess, like a practice regimen for each
not
one when you know you're
really
done?
just like feel like I'll sit down like usually at least once a day. I'll like sit down. I practice like an hour or two solo. Then like yeah, and I do a lot. I do a lot of level one. I fight a lot of level ones just to like keep like that's when like just like keep myself like um
Yeah,
Level
under
one.
shape.
Yeah, the level one CPU is gonna be your best friend for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So you said how often do you practice? How often do you do this?
At least once a day.
Okay. What I would say is try to. It sounds like all mostly sounds good. And I do like that you're practicing every day. I would say the most important thing is make sure that whenever you're practicing, that you're not going into an autopilot mode. So like even whenever you're fighting the computers, and like even when you're fighting the computers, like make sure that your mind isn't drifting. Does that make sense? So like if you're fighting this level one Fox CPU, like if you catch, and this is totally going to happen, but if you like catch yourself thinking about like I don't know what other shit you do, like oh like I want to play Valorant, or like I'm thinking about dinner or a TV show while I'm fighting the computer, like that is like what forms a lot of like oh I just autopilot habits, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that doesn't happen when you practice. If that's happening, then just like take a break, get some water, walk away for 5 minutes, and then come back. That's going to be really important because mindful practice is like has been like shown in studies to just like not be that helpful. Mindless practice.
Also do a lot of combo training on Uncle Punch versus floaties off of like different throws, and like late nair
Yeah,
helped a lot.
that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely saw you, for example, do that near into knee, right?
Yeah.
That's probably came from that.
Well, yeah. I do a lot on like Peach and Marth,
Mm-hmm.
quickly, and sometimes like Sheik.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Martha is gonna be a big one because of well, you know, he's just like one of the perfect combo wits for Falcon.
Yeah, I think he's like the easiest character to combo, definitely.
Yeah, and there's like tons of like flowcharts online and stuff for like optimal versus Marth combos and stuff.
Yeah.
So you can just like pick one part of that flowchart to practice and then work on it.
Mm-hmm.
As for like Falcons to watch. Obviously, I'm sure you watch like None and SCJ.
Yeah.
I would
Mainly, yes.
mainly SCJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like what I base my play style off of.
Uh huh. For this versus Peach matchup, uh, I would suggest that you watch Sechi.
I did watch some of his stuff first. Triff.
Yeah.
That's like that
And
one. I watched that one a few times.
yeah, and Sechi is like pretty incredible. He's, as I'm sure you know, he's like the Triff Slayer. But like it always seems like, like we had these situations where Peach was on the side platforms and you were below it. And it always seems like Sechi has like this great wall of up airs that he puts out anytime
Yeah.
that Peach is above him. And like figuring out like his timings and how he does that would probably be really helpful for you in this matchup.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let me see. Uh, do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
Not really. Oh yeah, is retreating bear that good on Peach? Because like, I've been told it's not, but like it also works a lot of the time. So, not really sure what I should do in that.
You mean Peach's retreating bear?
Like my retreating, like
Oh, like
dashing
you're
away. Yeah.
jumping, you're dashing away and backing at her.
Yeah.
It's good if she's like trying to run into you with dash attack, right?
Yeah.
Uh, basically in melee, and I'm not going to explain the science behind this unless you want me to, but basically in melee, all hitboxes are bigger whenever you're retreating, whenever you're moving away from your opponent, and they're smaller if you're moving towards your opponent. So, like retreating bear gets that bonus. So if she runs into you as you're like retreating and drifting away with the hitbox, then a lot of the time, your hitbox will win, and it just like hits at a good angle and does decent knockback. So it's good in that sense. Of course, the downside is that you have to retreat with it. So it's not hard to imagine how this is the downside. You can't really attack someone. You can't really approach someone that well by retreating with bear, and you also, if you keep retreating, then well you get to the ledge of the stage, and then you can't retreat anymore, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Um, I don't know. I wouldn't say that it's like a bad option. It's certainly like something that you could explore. I guess that from the way you're talking about it, you felt like you you were told that's good, so you try a little bit, but you didn't like it that much. Is that right?
No, I use retreating bear a lot, and like
Mm-hmm.
something I use in most matchups.
Mm-hmm.
I was told that it wasn't that good, so I was like, oh, and I'm trying to like consider continue use that as a thing in this match.
I think if she's going to like run into you, then it's probably great. And if she's not going to run to you, then it's probably not that good, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
if go off of like what your experience is teaching you, did they tell you why it's not that good?
Really?
Yeah. In that case, I would say like keep working with it, and if you like it, figure out the spots where it is that good and where it's not.
Do you mean like the reverse hitbox is bigger, or just retreating is bigger?
Retreating makes your hitbox bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, your hitboxes are bigger whenever you're moving away. It's not like all of them. All of them are bigger whenever you're moving away.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let me hit stop recording here.